Hey, everybody. This is Troy over at Uncomfortable Truths. Thanks for taking time to check me out. Today, we're talking about Cenk Uygur's campaign and the fact that he has been kicked off of the Nevada ballot, or he's not going to be allowed on, however you like to look at it. And this might be kind of an entry sign that there isn't a lot of hope for the Cenk Uygur campaign, because this is just one of the states that he's not going to be allowed on the ballot. He actually got the form, and where it says natural born citizen of the United States, he crossed that out and put naturalized citizen. So that's something that I find to be absolutely hilarious, just because kind of the absurdity of it. Cenk Uygur is, of course, not a natural born citizen of the United States. He was born in Turkey and then came here and became a naturalized citizen. So while he is certainly a citizen of the country, he doesn't meet that natural born citizen requirement to become president of the United States. Now, Cenk Uygur argues, and this is certainly a minority view that doesn't seem to be well understood the way he understands it to mean, is that he actually can run as a naturalized citizen. He points to case law and says that he actually would win in a Supreme Court case, if it came to that. Well, now we're facing two issues. The first is it's going to be extremely difficult to win when you're the Democratic primary, when you're kicked off of the ballot or not allowed to be on the ballot, in certain states. So before he can even realistically participate as an opponent in the Democratic primary, he's going to have to actually be allowed on the ballot. So he might need a Supreme Court case to decide that he actually can run before he's even allowed to participate, in the primary. And on top of that, there's an issue where the federal government actually isn't necessarily supposed to be in charge of the elections. Each state gets to decide how they're going to run their own elections, and I find it extremely unlikely that the Supreme Court is one going to agree with Cenk Uygur's interpretation of his citizenship status and whether or not that means he's allowed to, actually run for president, and two, that they're going to tell states they're not allowed to run their elections how they see fit, or how they're going to require the forms to be filled out. I mean, that's very much a states' rights issue, which has been firmly placed into the state's hands. So I find it extremely unlikely that Cenk's candidacy is going to go anywhere, to the point where I do kind of wonder if Cenk even realistically thinks that this is going to make it that far, because he's also up against, a time crunch, because you can't decide just a few days before the presidential election, yeah, I'm actually going to go ahead and run. I mean, there's going to have to be a case that's tried at a regular court, at probably a state level, maybe at the federal level, and then you can appeal whatever decision they come up with if you don't like their decision, which I suspect he most certainly will not. And then the Supreme Court can, at their own discretion, decide whether or not they're going to take this case. Like, the Supreme Court could just not take the case. Now, let's give it the most favorable, possible outcome to Cenk and say the Supreme Court does take this case to determine whether or not he can go on the ballot and states have to allow it. Well, it's a, majority conservative uh, Supreme Court. So he would have to get the same court that overturned Roe versus Wade to allow him to run. And I just frankly don't see that happening. And then say that that does happen, then he has to win this long shot election against the incumbent president in the party. And then after that, he has to win a general election against almost certainly President Trump, unless something crazy happens. He either goes to jail or, has some sort of, physical reason why he's not able to go. Maybe he gets sick or something. He's also somewhat older. Um, and so then he has to win the election, and then he's going to have to go back to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is again going to have to decide to let a far left liberal commentator become president based on their understanding, which will be a conservative states' rights, majority leaning court, that yes, they are going to install Cenk Uygur and use his interpretation to make him president of the United States. Now, that's crazy. That's almost certainly not going to happen for just a number of reasons, some of which that I've laid out there. And he's going to have to do this in a remarkably quick pace. So for this to happen, I think is kind of pie in the sky, unicorns and fairy tale kind of stuff. I know some of you in my audience really respect and like some of the work Cenk Uyghur's done. There's some things that he's done that I also like and respect. I don't know that I would. I certainly won't be voting for him, but I am glad that he's in the race. I do think it's interesting to see how an online, media mogul, somebody that's been in the online news space and helped pioneer it, is going to run a campaign. So I'd like to continue watching and covering what he's doing, but I do think that I would not be sending his campaign any money, because I think that's, throwing money into a wishing well at this point. But anyway, everybody, I just want to give you an update on the Cenk Uygur presidential campaign. I know for some of you, this isn't going to be great news. For a lot of you, it's just going to be entertaining. You're like, yeah, I know that's what it says. He can say whatever he wants about his interpretation, but that's not what it says. It's pretty clear, at least in my mind, that whether you like it or not is kind of irrelevant. I mean, the Constitution's clear. This is the rule. And I think that's unlikely to change. But anyway, everybody, thanks for checking me out. We're going to go ahead and keep covering all of the presidential campaign and Cenk Uygur. Hit like and subscribe. Go ahead and leave a comment below with any of your thoughts. And I look forward to seeing y'all in the future. Thanks again, everybody. Bye.